Hello guys, welcome to a new update on our game. So it's been more than a week since our last update on our game, and there have been lots of improvements. First of all, our game has sound, so now we can shoot and we have sound, and you can see the breathing and some ambient sound of the environment in our game sound system. And moreover, we have a brand new thing here. So this is a space station that I made. So it's basically in zero gravity and everything is floating, and most of the stuff is basically interactable here. So it's pretty fun to interact with all the stuff here. What I also did is a saving and loading system. So if we press the pause menu, we can see two buttons, which is save and load. So let's just move to some place where we can demonstrate. So now I use some. Oh, I was throwing oxygen, so I need to get some oxygen first. Okay, so we have. So I will use some bullets here. So we have 11 SMG bullets in our magazine right now, and we'll just be saving our game here. Okay, now the game is saved. So let's move somewhere else and use more bullets. So we have 7 now, and we load the game again. You can see that we have the previous amount of SMG bullets, and we're at the position where we save our game. So the saving function is working. What I also do is I optimize the shooting of our game. So as you can see right now, if I shoot, there's some shaking the screen. And also you can see the weapon just moving, and different kind of weapon has different magnitude of shooting, the shaking in their when you shoot them. And also you can see that when you shoot a bullet, the weapon goes backwards because of the impulse of the bullet, which is pretty realistic, which I like a lot. And what I also did is, if you pay attention to the top left corner, there's I'm low on oxygen again. I need to make some more oxygen. So yeah, let's get some oxygen. And so if you pay attention to the top left corner, there's a flashing sign. So it's basically, I did this to help the player to track this object. So this object is a collectible object, and what the player needs to do is to grab this thing and then throw it here to collect that. So how does the player find this thing? So if the player approach this thing, then the flashing on the top left corner gets stronger, and if the player moves away from this thing, then it's flashing less frequently, which I think is pretty good. And I know that lots of games had this function, so I was just copying it to make this one in my games, because I think it's pretty fun to do that. And what I also did is a new enemy. So this is the model of this enemy, and it's able to shoot at the player. So this enemy has a longer range than this drone's, a lower health, but it shoots more accurately, and it deals like very high damage to the player. So let's enable this enemy in our scene to see what happens. Okay, the enemy is here. By the way, we have a new music player which plays some music every time there's an enemy close to the player, like any kind of action games would have. If you so when the players get hit by a bullet, it will also play a screen shake effect, which is pretty cool. Okay, the enemy is dead. So it has higher damage but lower health, and it will follow you and shoot at you. So if you evade, then it will kind of hard to shoot at you, but if you stay still, then it will be able to shoot at you. So the trick to deal with this enemy is to keep moving. yeah, you have to keep in range of that. And now I'm dead. So this is also something that I made. So this is an effect that shows the when you die, and it tells you to press E to reload the game. Okay, and now the game is reloaded. So without further ado, let's just get into how I achieve all those functions that I showed you before. Let's take a look at how we achieve the saving and loading function. So because Unity don't have a default save and load solution that simplifies everything, so you have to write all the codes yourself for saving and loading, which is such a pain in the ass, because normally when you terminate your game, then everything in your runtime needs will be deleted. It just lost, so you have to save all the stuff from your game during runtime to a separate like text file or something, and then reload all the stuff from the text file back into the game every time you load the game again, which is pretty pain in the ass. So to achieve that, you need to have 3 scripts: the save and load script, the save and load script is you can attach it anywhere you want, and the savable object script, which you need to attach it to the object that you can save games, and also this script, which is so basically if you have an inventory script, then you have to attach the savable object script to the script where the inventory script attached to, and basically what it does is that this savable object script reads the information from the inventory script, and the save and load script reads information from savable object script, and the save and load script puts all the information into into a text file and load it. So when you load the game, this script load all the game from the text file and transfer that to savable object, which transfer to inventory to achieve the flow of information from every part of the game script and the txt file. So I learned this kind of architecture from the YouTuber DaperDino, which I think is really useful and a very good system, because so after you write all the script, when you want to save something, you just need to change the script object and attach something to that, and that's all. So it's pretty easy to use. So let's take a look at the code in the save and load function. So we have 2 methods here: reloading and awake. Reloading and like save and load. So this is to save the game. So imagine if I press button, which is the save button, and this triggers this save method. So what it does is that it capture state. It calls the capture state method, and then it's basically opens a file in this save path, which is the persistent data path, and it basically transfer all the information into a binary file and just put it there. So when you load it loads all the information from the binary file and put it in this restore state function. So the capture state function basically calls the capture state function in the savable object, which calls the capture state function in the inventory. So that's why it's pretty confusing to do that, because all the functions are just looped together. And also same for the restore state function. So if you call the restore state function here, it calls the restore state function in the savable object, which calls the restore state function in the inventory menu. So that's how the information got passed up and down through those 3 scripts. So the regular stuff is that when you press the save button, then basically the information from this script pass into this script and pass into this script, which got loaded into a binary file. And when you try to load the game, the information from the binary file loading into the script, which got loaded into this script, which got transferred back into the place where you want to be. So that's the key part of the information. I don't want to get like to very detailed part of this code, because it's really confusing. It took me like a whole night to figure out all the stuff, which is pretty confusing. Now let's take a look at how I achieve the music player. So this is a script available for the music. So every time there's Emily closer to the player, the music stops playing. So let's take a look at how to achieve that. So this function, find nearest object, does what it's what the name suggested. So we find all the objects all the enemy objects, and so we loop through all the objects and find their distance from their position to player position, and we return this object and also its distance. So we turn the distance of the nearest object. So, and then after we return that, we check if the distance is close enough. So if the distance is close enough, we start playing music. So this is a coroutine that was responsible for the music to play. So let's take a look at how we achieve that. So first of all, we get the length of the music array, the array where I store all the audio clips of the music, and so when it's close enough to play the music, we first randomize the number. So this is because you don't want the music to be the same every time you start playing. You want a different music every time the music starts playing. So we randomize this number and we play the music according to this number, this position in the music array. And so when it starts playing, then it just starts detecting whether is still in range to play the music. If it's out of the range for the music to play, then just stop playing. And so we have this thing here. So we don't want the music to stop abruptly. We want the music to stop slowly and gently. So what this code does is that it reduces the volume of what the audio source according to time. So after 1 second, the volume of the audio source decreases from maximum 1 to minimum 0. So this is how the music player does. And this script is available for the flashing sign that you see on the top left corner of the screen. So this is actually, so this function is the same function as this function. It's also finding the nearest object, but this time the object we need to find is the blue cube that you see that we need to collect. So after we find the nearest blue cube near us, then we just start a coroutine that tells the icon to flash according to how close we are to this object. So what it does is basically set this icon true and then set this icon false for period of time, which is controlled by the distance. So this is a script for our camera shake. So we have a camera shake script before, but this one is the updated version, which uses motion blur and also changes the rotation of the camera shake to make it look more realistic and better. So what this shake cam script does is that, so first of all, it's changed the position of the camera, and also it changed the rotation of the camera, and it basically keeps this position for a fixed period of time. And also it changed motion blur. So every time the camera is shaking, we got some motion blur, which looks really realistic. Now let's take a look. Now let's take a tour of the station I made, of the space station that I made. So it's gonna be, most of the places are still not finished. So, but it's gonna be the first level of our game. So those are all the enemies, but they're still just spawning here. This is another corridor here, and it leads to, so this is a dead end here, and this one leads to the storage container of the space station. So that's the end. Probably because we're approaching the enemy spawn point, that's why the music is playing again. So this is another room that I made, which looks pretty good. Okay, the enemies are following, which is a good sign. That shows they're smart enough to follow. Okay, this one is clipping through the wall. This is something definitely need to be fixed here. What? Okay, so somehow I died because of bullet clipping through the wall. So this is something that I need to check fixing. So this room is probably a medical bay or something. I haven't actually figured out which room this is gonna be, but there's a big satellite dish below that, which you can just see right through here, which I think looks pretty cool. Moving on to the next section of the space station. So if we just quickly run through the corridors here. So this is the intention. This corridor is intentionally to be made long to make the player lost, because well, otherwise it's just gonna be too easy and too linear for this floor. And let's just turn off the sound because it's getting annoying. So we have this room here. So the floor of that is still see-through, and there's another satellite, and there's Earth behind us, which is pretty cool, I think. This is a square room here, and the glass is up there, so it wasn't much stuff to see here. And this is the last room of the space station. You can also see the satellite from here, which is pretty cool. So that's all for today's content. I hope you enjoyed those updates on our game, and I will see you next time.